All right, Mavs. Good morning. This is Mrs. Hampton. I'm super excited to be with you here today. Today we're going to continue working on our graphing. Today is kind of that one step forward because we're going to be creating a lot of problems and solving critical thinking problems with the data that we have. So our learning target today is I can use information in bar graphs to solve and compare problems having one or more steps to solve. On to 1, 2. I can use information in bar graphs to solve and compare problems having one or more steps to solve. Pew! All right, so I'm going to get us started first with our quick video on using and solving problems that you can understand through graphs.
Problems using bar graphs. Let's take a look and then see if we can hit a home run. Here is a bar graph. You might remember that a bar graph is a great way to show data and help us answer questions about the data. The title at the top says Home Runs in Season. The title tells us the data shows how many home runs were made that season. If we look at the bottom of the bar graph, we have some of the baseball players listed. On the left side, we have the number of home runs going from 0 up to 50. The numbers are in increments of 10, so we are counting by 10. Using this bar graph, we can see the first kid, Gary, had 50 home runs. Josh had 30, Cindy had 40, and Carl had 10. The first question we have is how many more home runs did Gary hit than Josh? We know Gary had 50 and Josh had 30. We need to know how many more home runs Gary had than Josh. How do you think we can solve this problem? We can solve this question by using subtraction. Gary had 50, and we subtract the amount Josh had, which is 30. What is 50 subtract 30? The answer is 20. Gary had 20 more home runs than Josh. Great job! Using the bar graph, we solved the problem. Here is another problem that we need to solve. The problem says if Josh and Cindy combined their home runs, then how many more home runs did they hit than Gary? This question is a little bit harder because there are two parts to solve. How would you solve this problem? To solve this problem, the first step is to combine Josh and Cindy's home runs. Josh had 30 home runs, and Cindy had 40. What is 30 plus 40? 70 home runs combined. Great job. That was the first part of the question. Now we need to know how many more home runs they hit than Gary. We know that combined they hit 70, so we need to subtract the home runs Gary hit, which is 50. What is 70 subtract 50? The answer is 20. With their home runs combined, Josh and Cindy had 20 more than Gary. Great job, guys! You did amazing, and you sure know how to use a bar graph. Now let's see how you do with pitching the ball to me. All right, give me your best throw. Whoa! Ugh. That was a really good throw. Ouch!
All right, so that's what we're going to focus on today. So I'm going to kind of walk you through some of our assignments, but I was thinking that today would be really fun to just look at some of the things that we can analyze and find in our house to graph. And then we're going to come up with our own questions to create, and then we'll go through what our assignments are for math today. All right, so what I figured I would do today is we're going to do coins in my jar. So you can see I've kind of already got us started here. I'm going to find my pennies, my nickels, my dimes, my quarters, and then I've labeled my bar graph. Notice always, what number do you always start at? 0, okay? And so you can see that the most that I'm going to find today is 17. Now, for those of you looking for extensions and challenges, we'll talk at the very end of the lesson. However, if you had, let's say, 75 coins or 75 nickels, obviously you can't get them all on this line if you're counting by ones. So that if you had 75, you might want to start counting by fours, and this would still be 0. but this would be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Okay, so there's different ways to make this challenging to fit whatever kind of experience and exercise you want this to be. So let's go ahead and start our data together. I'm just going to make a little label up here just so I can kind of keep track. Quarters, nickels, I should do it in the same order, dimes, nickels, pennies. All right, so I'm just going to make a little tally to count and see which ones we have. So right here I have 1 quarter. Right here is a nickel. Here's another quarter. 2 pennies. A dime. Another dime. Another dime. Penny. Penny, penny, penny. 3 more pennies. Another penny. 2 quarters. 2, 3, 4. Oops. 4 more dimes. Holy smokes, 8 nickels. Okay. 2 more quarters. Another nickel. 2 more nickels. 1 more dime. 1 more penny. Another quarter. And 4 more nickels. All right, so that is all of the coins that I have in my coin collection today. So now I've created I have my data, and so now I'm ready to graph and create my graph. So I'm going to find that. I'm going to look here. So how many quarters do I have? These are in groups 5, 6, 7. So I had 7 quarters. I'm going to find my 7. I'm going to go up to where my quarters are. Remember, I always like to make that line. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and shade it in. Okay, so I have 7 quarters. Next, I'm going to look at my next piece. I have dimes. How many dimes did I have? I had 8 dimes. I'm going to come to my 8. Kind of the same thing. I know when you make your graphs, you are much neater. I'm just doing this to make sure that we have enough time. Nickels, I found I had 16, so I'm going to find my 16 here. Come on out there. Okay. And when we're working today, you guys can find different ways to extend and different ways to be thinking about the data that you have. There's going to be questions in your math book that help you to think about the coins and reading the data and reading your graphs. And I also want you to explore some other options. This is could be a fun activity to do with your family or your siblings, just to kind of look at. Okay. So remember what I said earlier. I really always prefer to show that number just so I don't have to reread it every single time. So this I had 7. Dimes I had 8. Nickels I had 16. And pennies, I had 8. Okay. All right, so here's my data. So here our job today, guys, is we're going to be creating questions. All right, so if I look right here, what could be a question that we can create with our data? So one might say, okay, if I said 3 of these quarters are from 1981 that means that's when they were born, printed, 1981, how many of the quarters are made in other years? Okay, so this could be, how can I solve this problem? Well, I know that I have 7 quarters. Okay, 3 of them are made in 1981. How many are made in other years? So I can solve that right here by 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Take away the ones that were made in 1981. 1, 2, 3. To find the number that were made in other years. 4. Okay, and you can also represent that, as you know I love to do on my Math Mountain. 7, take away 3. Gives you that missing add-in, that missing partner. Okay, so that's one way to read this information. Okay, now let's pretend there was some information that was not on my graph. Okay, you know what I actually have? I actually had some half dollars. Okay, but I didn't graph them because I didn't have that very many of them. So here's what I want you to think about. What if my question was, how many, I have 2 more pennies than half dollars. How many half dollars do I have? Now, half dollars isn't on here, so how am I going to find out that information? Do I know how many pennies I have? Yes. Okay, so I have 8 pennies, and I have 2 fewer pennies than half dollars. How many half dollars do I have? Right, I can find that out. I can look at my graph and I can take 2 away. 1, 2. If I had 2 fewer pennies, then how many pennies would half dollars, how many half dollars would I have? I'd have 6. Okay, another way to do it is to use your Math Mountain and say, if I took 8 and my 8 pennies, and I took 2 because I have 2 more pennies than I do half dollars. So if I took that away to find the number, okay, then I can also find that this number is 6. I can also make a drawing saying if I have 8 pennies and I have 2 more pennies than I have half dollars, then I could say that I have 6 pennies. Okay, so that's different ways that you can just look and read the data that you have right here. Okay, as you go into this, you're also going to be asked to do some even deeper thinking about your data. So let's continue kind of working with the coins we have here since we're familiar with these numbers now. All right, so we're going to say, let's see, I'm going to say, all right, let's pretend that my daughter, Mackenzie, also has dimes. Now, if I wanted to know, okay, if Mackenzie has 8 more dimes than Mrs. Hampton, how many more dimes does she have? Okay, so in this one, I'm comparing those numbers between the number of dimes that Mackenzie has versus the number of dimes that I have. Now, we don't know how many dimes she has, but we're going to use our comparison bars to find out that important information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my comparison bars. Who has more? What did I say? Yeah, I said Mackenzie has more. So I'm going to put Mackenzie's data up here. So that's Mackenzie, and I'm going to be H for Hampton. Okay, and this has to do with the number, and I always put those symbols in because I like to know that these often work the same way. The solving it is the same way, okay, but it helps you to kind of understand the way the problems are. So Mackenzie has 8 more dimes than Mrs. Hampton. So I can't put my 8 right here, right? Because it doesn't say that Mackenzie has 8. Remember with comparison bars, this is where the more or fewer number goes. So that if we know that Mackenzie has 8 more dimes than Mrs. Hampton, okay, and do we know how many dimes Mrs. Hampton has? Yes, we do, right? Miss Hampton has 8. So if I look right here, I can see that in order to solve the number of dimes that Mackenzie has, I can say that 8 plus 8 will give me that number that Mackenzie has. Okay, so if we know that we like to always be working on our make a 10 strategy, right? So I would have 8. I'm going to take this one to 2 because that gives me my 10 plus 6 equals 16. Additionally, if you like to make drawings for those, that is completely your option too. This is a quick doubles number also. Okay, and then you can just count up those individual numbers. You can see right here if you always, that we've created a 10, and then you can count those 6 ones individually. So we know in this case that Mackenzie would have 16. All right, so now let's do another problem with it. Right, you can see as we're doing this, there are so many different types of problems, and there's a lot of different types of questions that you guys are going to see on your work this week. So I really want to expose and kind of talk through as many of those together so that you have some experience with that before you get started on your own. All right. Okay, so let's say we're going to bring Mackenzie in right now. Actually, let's use one of our students. How about, who is out there? Let me see who's on my first list. All right, Finn. Okay, so we have Finn today, okay, and Finn has 15 quarters. Okay, so that's the information that we know. We know that Finn has 15 quarters. He is super nice, and he gives 4 of his quarters to Ellie. Okay, so Finn, he gives 4 to Ellie. Now she has $1, as we know. Okay, now the question is, so this is going to be that 2-step piece, right? So we're going to use our graph to solve. Okay, and we know that we have a few things to solve first. So because the question is going to be, Finn has 15 quarters. He's going to give 4 of these quarters to Ellie. And then the question is, how many how many quarters does Finn now have than me? Okay, so how many more than Mrs. H? Okay, so you can see there's a few things. This is a 2-step problem, right? Which is something that we have worked on all year long, okay? Because we know that there's something we have to do. We can't just start to solve how many Finn has than Mrs. Hampton, right? Because he does something to his initial total before we can compare that number. Okay, so first we don't even have to read this bar graph, right? The first information just says that Finn has 15 quarters, and he is going to give 4 of them, so kind Finn, to Ellie. Okay, so you can do this. You can make a drawing. Some of you might know this in your head. It's totally up to you. So we have 15 right here if I use this drawing. And I'm going to subtract 4 because that's the number that he's giving away. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means that Finn is left with 11. Okay, so now we know that Finn has 11 And now we're going to compare that because I'm comparing it to how many more he has than Mrs. Hampton. So Mrs. Hampton, Finn is going to be up here because he has, I'm going to redo this, that's ugly. Okay, Finn is going to be at the top because he has a bigger number. And Mrs. Hampton is going to be at the bottom because I'm asking how many more does Finn have than Mrs. Hampton, right? So now is where you're going to use the data that you just found because now we know how many Finn has. How many does Finn have? 11. How many does Miss Hampton have? Well, we have to come over to our chart, our data graph, and we see that Miss Hampton has 7. And then if we solve this problem, that is going to tell us how many more Finn has than Mrs. Hampton. And another way to say it is how many fewer Miss Hampton has than Finn. Okay, I want you to pause that video and I want you to say it both ways. I want you to use the word more and I want you to use the word fewer. So you're going to have 2 different statements. Go ahead and pause this video and try both. All right, so you should have had Finn. How many more quarters does Finn have than Mrs. Hampton? Or how many fewer quarters does Mrs. Hampton have than Finn? So there's 2 ways to say that same information. Okay, so you're going to do 11 minus 7. And on this one, I'm going to go ahead and count up. Just we do different strategies, right? So we find that missing partner. So 7, how many do I need to add to 7 to get to 11? 7 plus 3 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. So that would tell us that Miss Hampton has 4 fewer, or Finn has 4 more than Mrs. Hampton. Okay, another way you can do it is you can have 11. Okay, and you can take 7 away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to see that you're left with 4. All right. Let's do one more question with this data, and then I'm going to go ahead and walk you through your exercises for today. All right. So we're going to say that Mrs. Hampton just went out and bought some new markers. Okay, and when the cashier gave me my change back, I was super excited because I got 5 more dimes back. So let's see. Actually, no, I'm lying too. Okay, so I got some pennies back, and now you guys, I'm amazed, but I actually have 17 pennies now, right? So before I had 8 pennies. Okay, I went to the store and I purchased some markers, and when the shopper gave me my change back, oh my gosh, guess, you have to find out how many pennies she gave me back, because guess how many I ended up with now? That is my biggest number. I'm super excited. Now I have 17 pennies. So my job now is to find out the difference. How many pennies did the clerk give me back? We know I started with 8, right? And we know now I have 17. So my job is to find out, your job is to find out how many pennies the clerk just gave me. Okay, so there's lots of ways to solve this. You can do 17, take away 8 as one option. Okay, and that would look like, okay, I can do it for you here. Okay, another option is you can have your 10 and 7, and you're going to have to ungroup that 10. Okay, and then you can subtract your 8. Okay, to find out how many you end up with. Okay, so either way, right, it's going to be 9. Okay, so that means in order for me to have my new total of pennies now be 17, the clerk would have had to have given me back 9 pennies. Okay, so there's endless possibilities as far as questions that can be created and ways to solve them. Okay, so your job today, Mavericks, is you are going to be looking at your math pages. So I just want to kind of walk you through. I'm just going to do it here. I think it's just easier, I think, for you. All right. Now you'll see, guys, you actually have, if you're doing the homework and remembering, I always say that. If you're doing the math workbook pages, okay, you're going to see that you have a few more pages to do today. One of them, this one has to do with puzzled penguins problems. You just have to understand, what did he do? Why is his thinking puzzling? Okay, and over here, a lot of these questions are very similar to the types of questions that I just went over with you, right? So this one says 4 of the monkeys are adults and the rest are babies. Remember, we had a similar problem when we talked about the year of the coins being made. Okay, so how many of the monkeys are babies? So if you look right here, we know that we have 6 monkeys. Okay, 4 of them are adults. How many must be babies? Okay, and always remember to label your work. Okay. On the back, it's very similar. Again, very similar kind of situations. You're going to, a couple of these are 2-step word problems, just like we just did. Okay, you have to kind of make sense. If you think back to the way that we like to solve math word problems, okay, this is going to be really useful. Okay, you want to read that problem, reread the problem one more time, so you will have read it a couple of times. Okay, underline the question, right? How many purple beads do these 2 people have in all? Notice this graph is only for Jenny. So you're going to use information from the word problem to find out how many beads Morgan has. Okay, so Jenny has 4 fewer purple beads than Morgan. So I can kind of, on this question, I get to ignore blue, red, and green and really focus on the purple beads that Morgan has. Okay, so if Jenny has 4, oh, I see that keyword team, 4 fewer. This is going to tell me that I'm going to be doing some comparison using my comparison bars to help with my thinking today. Okay, and I know here that Jenny has 4 fewer beads. So I'm going to do Jenny and Morgan, fill in that information, and I know that fewer is going to go here. And that actually leads you, right, you can kind of be clued in that this is going to be a 2-step word problem, okay? Because once I find out how many Morgan has, my question is, how many beads do Jenny and Morgan have in all? Okay, so I've given you a lot of these similar word problems in the work that we just did together with our coins. So you can go back and replay that as many times as you need to. Okay, so this you would find out how many Jenny, and then you would add those 2 together, right, to help you with that 2-step word problem. Okay, after that, you can come to your kind of just looking, we know, right? So you can look at the data that Puzzle Penguin did. Puzzle Penguin was looking at children's favorite snacks. So you had nuts, grapes, apples, pretzels, and how many more children chose fruit than nuts. So in this one, he took categories. So you can see that he took nuts and he took grapes. And how many chose grapes? 4. How many chose apples? 8. Pretzels are not fruit or nuts. So I'm going to just cross it out for this one. Okay, so he said fruit. So what do you think his puzzle problem was on this one? Okay, I'm going to leave that one up to you. Okay, and on this next one, this one's super fun because you get to kind of data collect and graph this data however it makes sense to you. So there's a lot of ways that you can graph this. Okay, so here's some shapes. These shapes are different sizes, they're different shapes, and they're different colors. So you get to choose over here how you're going to label your table. So on this one, I might say, let's pretend I wanted to do mine by sizes. Okay, and I could have done it by color. I could have done it by shape. Okay, so instead I did the sizes. So I'm going to say large, medium, and small. All right, so if I'm wanting to look at the large shapes, I like to cross it out too, just so I know I've already counted it. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would say those are my 4 large ones. Okay, medium shapes, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, it's kind of arbitrary with the shape sizes, but I think that's about right. And then my small shapes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So that's the most important thing, is that however you've decided to classify it, that this information is what is graphed over here. So that's kind of how you're going to judge the accuracy of this piece, is by making sure that these numbers match what you're graphing. Okay. If you are choosing to do the homework and remembering pages from the homework books we sent home during conferences, then this is going to be the work that you're doing today. Okay, you are going to be looking at this bar graph. Okay, and you're going to be using and analyzing data from this information that we have up here. So this one first says, how many more cans of tuna are there than jars of salsa? So I'm going to find my tuna, and I'm going to find my salsa. And like I said before, I think it's super helpful to make sure that you've labeled each of these ahead of time, because then I can easily say, I can make my math mountain 7 to find out how, and actually this, if I'm comparing, right, I can get the same problem or same answer in this one, but since it's comparing, it's best practice, right, to make that into comparison bars so that you know that you're really understanding. It just helps as our word problems get trickier, and knowing where to kind of plug in that unknown information. Okay, and down here, you can get as in-depth as you would like, where you're going to write one question about the graph and then answer your question here. Okay, if you are looking for challenges extensions, I want you to continue listening to this video, because I'm going to have you do a few types of graphs today. If you feel like your cup runneth over, then I want you to go ahead and end this video and get to work on your math for the day. All right. So if you are looking for additional extensions in practice, I'm going to introduce you guys today. I think I'm going to do the pie graph tomorrow on how to create that, but I would love to see you create your own line graph. So it would be fun to find data. Again, you can use coins like I did today, Legos, cereals, treats, markers in a bin, colors of socks, sizes of plates, whatever sort of data you want to create. You can do surveys in your house and count each person. Each person has to answer 10 times. I don't know. It's kind of hard in that situation, right? But there's a lot of different ways you can find data. So maybe mom and dad could help you to find some, or mom and whoever you have as a guardian at home, grandma and grandpa, anyone who's available, they can help you to find additional resources to look to graph and find. So go ahead here, and we're going to look at line graphs, because you can also create different line graphs if you want to try something new today, but you'd also be creating those questions. So I'm going to go ahead here.
I'm selling cookies to raise money for the soccer team. I've got one last box to sell. I'm keeping track of how many I've sold. I made a line graph. A line graph is a graph that uses points and lines to show data. You might use a pictograph or a bar graph to help you compare information about different groups. You might use a pie chart to compare parts of a whole. You use a line graph to track how a group or category changes over a period of time. What are the parts of a line graph? The title describes what is in the graph. My line graph tracks my cookie sales. An axis is a line that has numbers or categories and is used to create a graph. The x-axis is a horizontal line. That's the one that goes across. On my graph, it shows the days. The y-axis is a vertical line. That's the one that goes up and down. On my graph, it shows the number of boxes I sold. The points show how many boxes I sold on a specific day. How do you read a line graph? Graphs help us answer questions about data. How many boxes did I sell on Wednesday? To read a line graph, look at where the point lines up along the x-axis and y-axis. Look for the day of the week on the x-axis. Go up to the point and see where it lines up along the y-axis. I sold 7 boxes on Wednesday. How many did I sell on Thursday? I sold 5 boxes. When did I sell the most boxes? On Friday. You can tell easily because Friday's point is the highest on the line graph. Line graphs often track how something changes over time. They can help you see information in a different way. This shows how the size of the drama club has changed over the years. It shows the years on the x-axis and the number of members on the y-axis. Always pay attention to the scale on a graph. Not that kind of scale, Moby. The scale shows how numbers are organized on an axis. On this graph, the number starts at 15 and ends at 25. Graphs can use different scales. The numbers might go up by 5s or 10s, so it's important to look carefully. How many members did the club have in 2007? Look for the year on the x-axis. Then go up to the point and see where it lines up along the y-axis. There were 17 members. How many members were there in 2009? There were 20 members. Graphs can help you come up with ideas about the data. This graph shows that more and more students have joined the drama club over the years. The drama club has grown a lot since 2007. The school could use this information to give the club more money to put on plays. How can you make a line graph? Cool. You're selling lemonade to raise money for the soccer team? How much have you sold this week? You can use your chart to make a line graph. First, draw the x-axis and the y-axis and label each. Time is usually put on the x-axis. Add a title for your graph. Then choose a scale and figure out what numbers you want to put on the y-axis. Think about the smallest number and the highest number you will need to show. If the difference between them is a lot, you may want a scale that counts by 5s, 10s, or even hundreds. If the difference is small, you may want to choose a scale that counts by 1s or 2s. You need to show $2 and $20 on the same graph. You should probably use a scale that goes up by 2s. Remember, you write a 0 in the place where the x-axis and y-axis meet. Do not write the 0 above it. Now find the points on your graph. On Monday, you earned $6. Look for Monday on the x-axis and look for 6 on the y-axis. Then find a place where they meet and draw a point. On Tuesday, you earned $4. Look for Tuesday on the x-axis and 4 on the y-axis and find where they meet. Keep going until you plot or draw all the points on your graph. Then use a ruler to draw straight lines that connect the points. Now you can use the graph to help you understand the data. You sold the least on Thursday, but
All right, maps. So that is an excellent option for you. One thing, if you're kind of thinking, I'm not sure what I can graph, one thing that would be a fun idea is you can look at the weather. So you can look at previous weather. You can ask a grown-up to help you look at that. And you can also look at forecasted weather and do some charting over that over periods of time. You might have some other ideas that you want to do too. If you want to post your extensions onto Google Classroom or onto Seesaw, I would love to see the extra work that you are creating. All right, Mavs, talk to you